Here we go. We're going to do full daf today, B'ezrat Hashem. The next year will be a week today, next Sunday morning. So we are up to Ayin Hey Amud Bet, 75b. We are 6 lines up from the bottom. And we are discussing the opinion of Rabbi Eliezer that says that if you tell your wife, okay, I'm going out of town, and any neder you make from now going forward, while I'm gone, is going to be mufar. It's not going to count. Rabbi Eliezer says it's okay. It works. So the question is, that the Gemara asked is, how do we look at that, at the opinion of Rabbi Eliezer? Is it that it works for a second, and then because you said mufar, it's like it works for a second and then it breaks, or it didn't even get off the ground, it didn't even work at all. And we said that the nafkamina, meaning the difference. So what's the difference? The difference is, the halakhic difference is that if this lady says, "Oh, I want to never eat meat again," and then someone says, "Me too," so she hangs on to that neder. If you're of the opinion that that neder never even got off the ground, because there's a overarching mufar from the husband, then that doesn't even work, the neder. And then that other person that said me too doesn't work. But if you say that it got off the ground for a second, it was a good neder, but then the neder broke because he said mufar. So that means that the neder still was good, and this person, their neder that says me too, that works. So how do we look at it? And we brought a few proofs, but we did not get to the bottom of it yet. Now the Gemara is going to try to bring another proof. And the logic of Rabbi Eliezer is that if a husband could get rid of his wife's neder after she made the neder and fully established it, all the more so he could get rid of the neder before she even says it. So let's see. So it says the Gemara Tashma, 6 lines up from the bottom. Amru lo Rabbi Eliezer. They told Rabbi Eliezer, Uma mikveh shema'aleh tatemei mitumatan en matzil ala teori militameh. Just like a mikveh that's ma'aleh tatemei mitumatam, it removes the tum'ah from people that are tameh. Someone that's tameh goes into the mikveh, now he comes out tahor. En matzil ala teorim militameh. It does not save someone that is tahor from becoming tameh. Meaning, if let's say someone's tahor and he wants to go in the mikveh, he says, you know what, I want protection from becoming tameh. So he goes in the mikveh and he says, now I could go out for, and if tumah touches me or I touch tameh, it's not going to work. That doesn't work. The mikveh only gets rid of tumah. It doesn't prevent tumah from coming to you after you go into the mikveh. So just pausing there, on that point, that's already a contradiction to Rabbi Eliezer's logic. Rabbi Eliezer's logic is, if you get rid of full neder, all the more so you get rid of, even before she makes a neder. No, mikveh will show you the opposite. You get rid of tum'ah after he becomes tameh. You can't get rid of tum'ah, preventative tum'ah. You can't do that. So that's already a logic against Rabbi Eliezer. And once the Gemara is already quoting, the Gemara continues to quote the Braita, 3 lines up at the bottom, Adam she'en ma'aleh tatemeim mitumatan, and a man that does not remove tum'ah from its state. So it seems like I think we said this quickly before, if let's say a man swallows a tameh ring, let's say, and it comes out the other side, it's tameh still. It doesn't, just because it went through the man, it doesn't mean that now it becomes tahor. So enodin hu shelo yatzil ala tehorim militameh. Shouldn't it be that he as well, the Adam, should not save the tehorim from becoming tameh? You can't make it that he's going to now be able to save the tahor from becoming tameh. So this other kind of proof is just like if a man would swallow a tameh ring, it would still remain tameh if it comes out the other side. So too, if he swallows a tahor ring and he becomes tameh, it makes his whole body tameh, and there's no preventative like, oh, I don't want this ring becoming tameh, let me just swallow it, and then if I become tameh, the ring won't get affected. No, everything's going to get affected. So we want to show you from here, Shma mina lo chaylin. We see from over here that it doesn't work. So first of all, the logic is not like Rabbi Eliezer logic, and also we want to show from here that the neder itself doesn't even get off the ground, because this logic is just like a mikveh. It only works after the person's tameh, but but um, but to prevent it doesn't work. So that means that it's not like let's say the guy's tahor, he goes to the mikveh, and then okay, let me do a preventative mikveh. So he goes into the mikveh and he says, now I'm tahor, going to the mikveh, so that if tomorrow there's a tum'ah that I'm coming in contact with, it's not going to make me tameh. We don't say that it prevents it for a second and then the tumah overtakes him. No, that was not a preventive measure at all, and the tumah overtakes him. So it doesn't work at all. So therefore, Rabbi Eliezer, it should be lo chayli, and first of all, it should not work at all. And even in your logic that says that it's mufar, it should be that it wasn't even a neder to get off the ground. The whole thing doesn't even work. Okay, so the Gemara says, let's go to the next page. Ema Seifa. Let's look at the Seifa of that Braita, the latter part of that Braita, that would actually be a proof the other way around. And the Gemara wants to say, and therefore this whole Braita you can't prove from. So let's see, what's the proof from the other part of the Braita, the latter part of the Braita? Ema Seifa. Maybe we could show from the sof of the Braita, opposite of this. Amru lo Rabbi Eliezer. They told Rabbi Eliezer, which is the Rabbanan, im matbilin keli tameh litaher, if you dip a keli that is tameh into the mikveh to become tahor, yet bilu keli, and then Bach adds the word tahor, yet bilu kli tahor lekeshi tameh litaher shramina chaylin. Can you, same type of thing, like can you dip a kli? So you dip a kli that's tameh into the mikveh to become tahor. But can you dip a kli tahor into the mikveh so that when it becomes tameh it will be tahor? Like that it will be preventative? You can't. But Shma Min HaChaylin means we learn from here that it does work for a second. What does that mean? It works for a second. Let's take a look at the Ran and we'll see how this Kli case is different than the Adam case, that it's not Chal. For a moment here we see from the Kli case it does work for a moment. Let's see, if we look at the Ran, Ema Seifa, it's on this page, it's toward the bottom. It's right after, it's about 10 lines down, right when the new start of headings start. Ema Seifa. Im matbilim kli litar yadbilu kli. Rabbanan Nami, who the Pircha Rabbi Eliezer, Rabbanan as well ask on Rabbi Eliezer, Pircha Acharina, another type of question. Telefun kal v'chomer dideh, according to his kal v'chomer, Rabbi Eliezer's, Havamatzin on the Medak, we can learn from there that kevan shematbilim kli tameh litaher, and if you bring a kli, if you dip a kli that's a tameh to become tahor, kol shekin shematbilim oto sheleachar shi tameh yale mitumato, ve'at kufa modit delo daininan ki agavna amal kavachomer didach lete. So the first thing is the Ran says that they're trying to tell Rabbi Eliezer that you know as well there's no preventative type of dipping in the mikveh for a kli. So that shouldn't, therefore it shouldn't work for a man as well. So right away your kal vachomer doesn't work. So but from the way that they attack his kal vachomer, So the next run, Shema Mina Chaylin. We could learn though that the way that Rabbi Eliezer's logic worked is that the neder worked for a moment and then it was taken away. Why? Since they told him, since the Chachamim told him, lekesheyitame litaher. When it becomes tameh, it should be tahor. The lo hava lehu lememar yatbilu kli sheyatzil alav militameh. That it should save it from becoming tahor, tameh. So the Gemara is looking at the wording. The Gemara is looking at the wording over here. Let me repeat the first case and the second case as well with the kli. So they're coming to attack Rabbi Eliezer on his kal vachomer. But from the way they attack him on his kal vachomer, we could learn the logic of Rabbi Eliezer. That's what's going on over here. We want to know what's the logic of Rabbi Eliezer. So in the first way that they attack Rabbi Eliezer, they say, "Oh, Rabbi Eliezer, you said that just like a man could get rid of his wife's nedarim once they're already established, although most of them get rid of the nedarim before they're established, preventative. Well, a mikveh will show you that doesn't work. We have a concept already of a mikveh that it doesn't work for preventative. It works for if someone's tameh makes him tahor. It doesn't work for someone's tahor to prevent him from becoming tameh. That doesn't work. But the way that they tell that to Rabbi Eliezer, they say the words. If you look at the end of the last page, we read, "Enodin shehu lo yatzil ala tehorim militameh." It won't save tahor from becoming tameh. Shmamina lo chaylin. We learn from there that the logic is it's not chal, meaning it doesn't save from something that's tahor from becoming tameh. That means that means that the logic is that it doesn't even get off the ground. Meaning, in your logic of Eliezer, it should work as a preventative, and the way that they explain Rabbi Eliezer is that preventative is that the tumah doesn't even get off the ground. Like if you do this preventative thing, according to you, if it were to work, then it wouldn't even get off the ground. It would just you'd be tahor the whole time. So that means lo chayil. That means it wouldn't work for a second. It right away doesn't work. So if you comparing it to nedarim, that means the guy says mufar, her neder that says I don't want to eat meat anymore doesn't work, doesn't get off the ground. But for the latter part of the Mishnah that I just learned, the way that they attack Rabbi Eliezer, it seems like the way they're explaining Rabbi Eliezer, it would work for a moment. Because when they tell him same thing with the kli, they say a kli that's tameh, you put in the mikveh to become tahor. We do tefillat kelim. We buy kelim from goyim. That's what this is. It's tameh. You put it in the mikveh to become tahor. But if it's tahor already from becoming tameh, that doesn't work. There's no preventative things. And the way that they say it to Rabbi Eliezer is lekesheitameh litaher. That means when it becomes tameh to become tahor. It doesn't say like we said here shelo yatzil ala tehorim. It doesn't save it from becoming tameh. Doesn't when you say sheyatzil. It doesn't save it from becoming tameh. That means it remains tahor the whole time. It doesn't even get off the ground. Here it says, lekesheitameh litaher. When it becomes tameh, it will become tahor. That means it gets off the ground for a moment. So you see, shmamina chaylin. Back to the Gemara, shmamina chaylin, third line down. You learn from here that it works. So in this braita, there's a contradiction in how to learn Rabbi Eliezer. One part of the braita could teach us that his logic is that it doesn't work, it doesn't get off the ground. And one logic is that it does get off the ground. Says the Gemara, Amri, third line down, Amri, they said, Rabbanan lo kaimi leon b'tameh de Rabbi Eliezer. The Rabbanan, they don't. If you look at, back to the run for a second, where we left off, the word Amri. Amri, the heading Amri B'nei Yeshiva, the B'nei Yeshiva said, the Meha, from here, from this braita, Leka lemashmamina, you can't learn anything from it, because we have a contradictory way how to learn the logic of Rabbi Eliezer. You can't learn anything from it. So, back to Gemara, third line down, Amri, the B'nei Yeshiva said, Rabbanan lo kaim leon b'tameh de Rabbi Eliezer. The Chachamim were not interested in the reasoning of Rabbi Eliezer. Yes, they said it one time shelo yatzil, one time they said lekesheitameh litaher. They said it that way, but they weren't interested in. They were interested in knocking out his kal vachomer. I mean, don't extrapolate from the way they try to knock out his kal vachomer the logic of Rabbi Eliezer. that does it get off the ground or does it not get off the ground. Don't extrapolate that from him. We're here to knock out Rabbi Eliezer's logic. That's the mikveh whole thing, is to knock out his logic, not to now shed light on his logic that it gets off the ground or it doesn't get off the ground. And this is what they tell him. Like, what's your logic? Uvatlin. Do you have a kli to yuftech? They want to, and they want to tell him actually from both sides that you are uprooted. That's why they told him about man and about kli, because you could ask yourself, why do they have to tell him two punches from a mikveh from a man, mikveh from a kli? Just say one. So really, what they're doing is they're knocking him out from both sides, and they're saying like this: if you hold 5 lines down from the top in the Gemara, if you really hold dechaylin uvatlin, that it works for a moment and then it becomes batel to have a kli to yuftech. Look at the case of kli, that would uproot you, because the case of kli, it starts off and then you can't do preventative for a kli. Ilos to have a mikveh to yuftech. If you say no, it doesn't even get off the ground, then I'll show you mikveh case, that mikveh of man, that's going to argue against you. So either way either way of your logic, Rabbi Eliezer, it's not going to work out for you. So that's why they brought the two sides, but yet neither is a proof to the logic of Rabbi Eliezer. It's just coming to show his teaching of Kal Vachomer is flawed. So we still don't have we have questions on Rabbi Eliezer, but we don't have an understanding of Rabbi Eliezer. Is the neder of the woman, does it take off for a second? Is it a good neder and then it's shut down? Or is it not even a good neder from the onset? So a new attempt. 6 lines up from the bottom. Tashma, come in here. Amar lahem Rabbi Eliezer. Now Rabbi Eliezer is telling them back, strengthening his logic. Umazraim temeim kivash zaran bakarka tehorin. If you have tameh seeds, apple seeds, and they're tameh, when you put them in the ground and they start growing, whatever, it's tahor. It changes the situation. So umaz raim temeim kevin shezar an bakarka tahorin. Once you plant them in the ground, they become tahor. You don't say like, oh, this tree is tameh because it came from tameh seed. No, it loses its tumah. Zruim ve'omdim, things that are already grown and standing there, grown, attached to the ground. Lo kol sheken, shouldn't it all the more so that doesn't become tameh? Shema min lo chaylin. We learn from here that it doesn't even get off the ground to become tameh. It's tahor the whole time. If we say that his logic's like this, he tells them back, I want to show you the logic of preventative. That's really his whole philosophy. So he says, if I have seeds that are tameh, I put in the ground to plant. Once they're there, they become tahor. So it undoes. So all the more so it can be preventative. The things that are already grown and standing there, it cannot become tameh. So that's his proof for his logic. Another proof for his own Kal Vachomer. But we do learn from there, it doesn't even get off the ground to become tameh. It's tahor the whole time. So we learn from here his logic is that this type of neder doesn't even get off the ground. Just a moment. So Rabbi Eliezer wants to compare Zeraim to Nedarim. Just like by Zeraim, if it's Tameh, I plant it, it becomes Tahor. Meaning the mikveh was a question on him. Mikveh is a preventative mikveh situation. But here there is somewhat a preventative of Zeraim. Zeraim that's Tameh, put in the ground, it becomes Tahor. Once it's grown already, all the more so, it's tahor the whole time while it's on the ground. And that is actually the halacha. Item cannot become tameh so long as it's still growing, it's attached to the ground. So that shows also lochal, that it doesn't even get off the guy that's tameh that touches a tree. It's not. The tree doesn't become tameh and tahor again. No, it doesn't even become tameh. It doesn't even get off the ground. And Rabbanan agreed to this concept. So the Gemara is going to ask 4 lines from the bottom. Rabbanan lo darshi kal v'chomer. Don't the Rabbanan also agree to this kal v'chomer? V'atanya. And also the Gemara wants to say now there's another kal v'chomer that the Rabbanan should also agree to. So this is Rabbi Eliezer now questioning back, and his proof does shed light that it's lochal, doesn't even get off the ground. And now he's going to say that there's a kal v'chomer that the Rabbanan should agree to. V'atanya, there's a braita. Yachol limkor adam et bito keshehi na'ara. Yachol limkor adam et bito keshehi na'ara. Can a man sell his daughter when she's a na'ara? Meaning a man could sell his daughter when she is a ktana, when she is a young girl. When she becomes a na'ara, which is age 12, then he cannot sell her anymore. So, and we learn from here kal v'chomer, amrat kal v'chomer, mechura kavar yotza. If a girl is already sold, and then she brought simani, meaning she turns 12 in her state of sale, like she was sold, and then she turns 12, yotza. She leaves that. She's not sold forever. She leaves that situation. She's not. She's done once she gets 12. Let's say a person didn't sell his daughter. Can't it be for sure that he cannot sell her after she turns 12? So the kal v'chomer is if a girl who's already sold becomes free after she turns 12, all the more so a girl that was never sold cannot even be sold after she's 12. So the simanim, the fact that she brings a sign, it seems like hair in that area, that she's now 12, so that's like a proof. So therefore, so like this. So with that proof, if a girl is sold already, she could go out with that proof. She's 12. Preventative, meaning if she was never sold, all the more so she can't go out. All the more so you can't sell her after 12. So that's this type of kal v'chomer. Same type of thing like Rabbi Eliezer. Let's look at the Ran, 2 lines up from the bottom. Mechura kavar yotza b'simanim. A girl that's sold already, she could go out with simanim, with signs. That's simanim, the hairs in that area. She'ena mechura, she's not sold yet. Be'oda ktana, while she's still ktana. Eno din shelot yimacher. Can't it be that you cannot sell her? Achar she'evia simanim, when she brings simanim. So too we could learn from here out a kal v'chomer to us. Nedarim shechalu. If you could get rid of nedarim that are already established, the husband could get rid of nedarim already established. Can't it be that he gets rid of nedarim that did not yet be established? Can't it be that he also can't sell her if she already brought some money? He can't sell her. It meaning that his strength is not on the fact that he has the ability to sell her, but it's all based on her simanim. So he didn't sell her yet. All the more so, he can't sell her if she already brought simanim. So we said, Rabbanan, don't you agree to this kal v'chomer? That's a proof like Rabbi Eliezer. So says the Gemara, top of the page, Ayin Vav Muvet. Yes. Be'alma darshi kal v'chomer. You're right. In general, this is now the final piece over here, but it seems like we still don't have an understanding of Rabbi Eliezer's logic, but they say like this. Yes. In general, we are doresh the kal v'chomer. Means now the Gemara is saying that Rabbanan agreed to Rabbi Eliezer in his logic. Your kal v'chomer is a good kal v'chomer. But v'shani hacha, here it's different when it comes to nedarim. The Amar Kar, because the pasuk says, Isha yakimenu ve'isha yaferenu. The husband could establish the neder of his wife, or the husband could get rid of the neder. And because there's a connection between establishing and getting rid of it, Et sheba lichlal hakem, lichlal hafer. The neder that becomes established is connected to the neder that becomes destroyed. Et shelo ba lichlal hakem, lo ba lichlal hafer. If it cannot become established, it cannot become destroyed. So we've had this before, that there's a connection between the establishing a neder and getting rid of the neder. And therefore, just like in this case, we saw from the Mishnah last time, that this guy's going out of town, and he tells his wife, okay, I'm gone for a week, any neder you say is going to be mufar. That we said, Rabbi Eliezer says, you could do that. Chachamim said, no, you can't do that. If he says, any neder you say is going to be established, we already said across the board that cannot work. So, if a neder cannot be established by the husband, then the hafara also doesn't work. So that's the Rabbanan's counter to Rabbi Eliezer at the end of the day. At the end of the day, they knocked out his kavachomers, but then Rabbi Eliezer came back with a kavachomer of his own from selling the daughter, and from the case of the seeds, and the Gemara says, you know what, Rabbanan agreed to those kavachomers. You're right. You have a good logic. So why don't we agree to you in general, Rabbi Eliezer? Because we go with the pasuk, and it seems like Rabbi Eliezer wasn't bothered by this, but Rabbanan were of the opinion that only if a husband could establish such a neder, could he get rid of such a neder. And in such a case, when he's going out of town, he can't establish that neder. Therefore, if he can't establish that neder, he can't get rid of that neder either. And therefore, that's why they argue on Rabbi Eliezer. So we end up still with the machloket, but it seems like we don't have. Unless the truth is, the last case we did bring was the case of the zera that shows that it doesn't even get off the ground. So maybe that's where we're putting Rabbi Eliezer's logic to answer our original question. The original question of this Gemara was, what's Rabbi Eliezer's logic? Does the neder get off the ground and then get shut down because the husband said mufar, or does it not even get off the ground at all? It seems like the last proof is that it doesn't even get off the ground at all. From the case of the zera.
No, he's not able to confirm the vow cannot.
What?
It says here. Cannot be confirmed, cannot be revoked.
Yeah. So that's why they argue on Rabbi Eliezer's logic. But do we see from here? Rabbi Eliezer's. That's what they don't agree to Rabbi Eliezer's kavachom over Nedarim. But do we see Rabbi Eliezer's logic if it starts or not? Yeah. Yeah. So if you look at the end of number 9, it does say that's on that point we've answered it. Thus, the Braita indeed indicates that according to Rabbi Eliezer, the husband's advance revocation of his wife's vows prevents them from taking effect to begin with. So on that point, that's what we've answered. That from the case of Zera, that the neder doesn't even get off the ground. Okay, great. And then this last piece is that Rabbanan arguing Rabbi Eliezer in his general logic because of the pasuk. Okay, Mishnah. Hafarat Nedarim kol hayom. Getting rid of a neder is the entire day. We've said before, and we're going to get into it more, that when a wife makes a neder, the husband has the entire day to get rid of it. Now, what does the entire day mean? Is it 24 hours or is it till sunset? Let's see. So, Mishnah says he has the whole day. Yesh bo davar le'akel u'le'achmir. The Mishnah says there's a leniency and a stringency in this. Ketzad. What's the case? Nadra Belel Shabbat. If she makes a neder on Friday night, meaning it's already Shabbat, it's already Friday night. Yafer Belel Shabbat. He could get rid of the neder on Friday night. Ubeyom Shabbat Ashetechshach. And on the day of Shabbat till sunset. So you have sunset to sunset. That is a leniency. What it means by leniency, the Rana tells us, is that not lenient or stringent, but rather cases that you have more time, cases you have less time. Nadra im chashecha. But if she makes a neder with sunset, meaning right before sunset, she makes a neder, mefer ad shelo techshach. He makes a neder, and he could break the neder, could do hafara until sunset. If it becomes sunset and he didn't do it, that's it, he lost it. So it could be minutes only that he has. It's till sunset, it's not 24 hours. It's on the day of. We also could see from here that you can get rid of Nedarim on Shabbat, and the Gemara is going to talk about that, but that's on next page, and we'll do that for next time. But let's see. Says the Gemara, Tanya. Says the Braita, Hafara Nedarim Kol Hayom. So, Kol Hayom. What is Kol Hayom? Rabbi Yossi be Rabbi Yehuda, be Rabbi Elazar be Rabbi Shimon. So Rabbi Elazar son of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. Say Amru me'et le'et. Me'et le means from time to time, which means 24 hours. From the time you made the neder till that same time next day. So they are of the opinion 24 hours. Our Mishnah says till sunset. They are of the opinion 24 hours. My Tama de Tanakam, says the Gemara. What is the reasoning of our first Tana in our Mishnah that says till the end of the day? Amar Kra, the pasuk says Beyom Shom'o. Beyom Shom'o, on the day that he hears it. Once that day passes, even if it's a few minutes till sunset, then the day passes on the day that he hears it. V'Rabbanan, and by the way, I think the Ran points this out, or we'll see in the Gemara that the day that you hear it, meaning even if she made the neder and then you only heard it 5 days later, it's from that point that the 24 hours or the end of the day starts. Rabbanan Maitama, back to the Gemara, and the Rabbanan, what's their reasoning of 24 hours? Tichtiv miyom el yom, because the pasuk says from day to day. Right? If the husband is quiet from the day to day, as a day passes, that means he holds 24 hours pass, then the neder is established. So the machloket from how to learn the psukim, is it to the end of the day, beyom shomo, or miyom el 24 hours? Now the Gemara does a cross-examination, a very common way to understand each opinion, by asking on the other opinion the pasuk of the first opinion. So, for instance, Gemara continues. Well, the Tanakama, according to the first teaching, haktiv miyom el, what do you do with the pasuk that says miyom el? How do you understand that pasuk if you're saying that doesn't mean 24 hours, it means till sunset? Says the Gemara, it's true. No, we still need that pasuk. The ibiyom shom'o havamina biyemama in belelialo. If I would have just had the pasuk that says beyom shom'o, on the day that you heard the neder, I would have thought nedarim only work in the daytime and nighttime it doesn't work. Ktiv miyom el yom, but now that the pasuk says from day to day, means there's sometimes nedarim that go from one day to the next overnight, and that means nedarim could work at night as well. I mean, according to the first opinion, you could still have a case that's 24 hours if she makes the neder right after sunset, and then you have till sunset that next day to get rid of the neder. So you're going through the night and the day, so nedarim work at night also. That's from the pasuk miyom el yom. Uleman damer miyom el yom haktiv beyom shomo. The Gemara now asks on the other mandam, or the other opinion. Okay, you go with miyom el yom that says 24 hours, but the pasuk says beyom shomo, on the day that you hear it. So meaning maybe it's only till sunset. What do you do with that? Answers the Gemara, it's trich, you need that as well. The iktiv miyom el yom. If it only said miyom el yom, havamin, I would have thought michad b'sheba lechad b'shaba leferla ktiv b'yom shemo. Michad b'shaba lechad b'shaba leferla. So you would have thought, I think B'Shabbat is like should be B'Shabbat. The Chad B'Shabbat is like Sunday, right? Yeah. So if like this, if it would have just had Miyom El Yom, you would have thought like this: if a lady raised a neder on a Sunday, you could get rid of that neder any subsequent Sunday, or maybe just the next Sunday, because Miyom El Yom, from this day till the exact same time, next time of this day, Sunday to Sunday. So you have a whole week to do it. That's why the pasuk is, we need the pasuk, but Yom Shemon, it needs to be the same day. So it's Yom El Yom, meaning from Sunday to Monday, the next day, 24 hours. So Yom El Yom teaches us from day till day. If it would have just had Yom El Yom, it would have been maybe that day to the exact same of that day, Sunday to Sunday. The fact that it says B'Yom Shom'o teaches us, no, that it's that day till the next day. On the day that you hear it. So 24 hours from the time you hear it. So that is the logic for the two reasonings. 4 lines up from the bottom. Amar Rabbi Shimon ben Pazi, Amar Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, En halacha ke'oto hazug. Rabbi Shimon ben Pazi and Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi says the halacha is not like that couple. What's the couple? The couple is when the Gemara starts, Rabbi Yosef ben Yehuda and Rabbi Elazar ben Shimon. That couple, so the halacha is not like the couple. The halacha is like our Mishnah, which says till sunset. Back to the Gemara, Levi Savar. Levi was of the opinion, Lemebad Kehani Tanai. He wanted to do like those Tanaim, like the couple. Amar le Rav, Hachi Amar Chabibi, En Halakha Keto Hazug. Rav told Levi, hey, don't you remember what Chabibi said? Chabibi said the halacha is not like that couple. Who's Chabibi? If you go to the Ran, 4 lines up from the bottom, we've learned this before. Chabibi is Chabibi Rabbi Chia. Rabbi Chia is Chabibi. Why? Shayad Dodo Shel Rav. He was the uncle of Rav, and he would call him Chabibi, my beloved one. I think because he was his uncle that took care of him. I think his parents passed away. His uncle raised him, so he would call him Chabibi. So this is a machlok between Levi and Rav. Levi says he was going to do like the two, like the zug that says 24 hours. Rav says, "Oh, you forgot the teaching of my uncle that says it's we don't go like that." Okay, back to the Gemara. 2 lines up from the bottom. Chia barav shadi gira ubadik.
What's going on over here? Here is Leah, the son of Rav. And the top one says Rav. Says my uncle Rav here.
Yeah, so maybe Rav named his son Chia also. Chia bar Rav. Chia the son of Rav. That's a new statement. Yeah. Chia the son of Rav. Shadi gira ubadik. If you look at the Ran, 3 lines from the bottom, Chia bar Rav Shadi gira ubadik. Agav garara de Rav. Since we mentioned the Rav, Maiti Acha, we mentioned over here Had de Chia bar Rav, the story of Chia the son of Rav, Shadi gira ubadik. Oh, he was doing bow and arrow, right? He was mitasek with shooting arrows. While he was shooting arrows, he wants to show us, I guess, how easy it was to get rid of Nedarim. While he was shooting arrows, he was questioning the guy and seeing like if he wants to. The guy comes in, Rabbi Chia bar Rav, I need to get rid of my Neder. Okay, keep on talking, and the guy's telling him the story, right? It's okay. You go on with your life. Your Neder is off. So the Ran explains the logic, because and he would want to see if he had we spoke about this the first time, the first day, if he had mitcharet, if he had regret, if he had regret for making the neder. The kasavar, he's of the opinion, we saw this before, potchim b'charata, that you could open a guy's neder based on his regret. Not necessarily that he had a petach, not necessarily that he had, if I would have known, I would have not said the neder. Rather, if you feel bad about the neder. That's why he didn't need very much depth to find an opening, a different opening. He just relied on the fact that he regretted. Also, back to the Gemara, ubadik, bottom line, ubadik Rabba Baravuna Yativ Vekaim. Rabba Barav Yehuda, he also would check someone who needed to get out of a neder while he was sitting, standing. He was walking around. He was not. Look at the Ran bottom line. He would sit, he would stand, whatever he felt he needed. It wasn't like he needed to sit, listen to the guy, this, okay, whatever. He was standing, he was sitting, he was doing his thing. Yeah, but he wanted to really see that the guy was remorseful, then he would let him go on the neder. Okay, that's that. And the next Gemara is going to talk about how can you get rid of Nedarim on Shabbat. That would be Bezrat Hashem for Sunday morning. Chazak u'baruch. Yeah.